Let's head to my interview now with the terrific MEGHANA GIRIDHAR, born in India, had been in New York City for a long time now, the founder of Let's Curate. She travels around the world and meets artists and gathers their goods and sells them online. You'll be amazed at what you find online. We'll talk about that during the interview. She has everything there. You want quality art? You want outstanding art? This is the place to go, letscurate.com. So let's talk to her right now from New York City, MEGHANA GIRIDHAR. On the other end of our line this morning is a terrific lady from New York City, originally from the country of India, has been in New York City for a long time now. She's the founder of Let's Curate, and she travels around the world meeting new artists and artisans and collecting their goods and tries to promote them and sell their work for them. And quite a challenge for her to do so because there's so much out there. But she finds the really good people who produce the really good stuff, and she's made a terrific business out of it. So let's welcome her to the show this morning from New York City, MEGHANA GIRIDHAR. Good morning, MEGHANA. How are you today?
Hi, good morning. So wonderful to be here. It's a great way to kickstart my day out here in New York. It's always exciting to talk to new people, and I've been listening to your show, and I'm so excited to have this conversation.
All right. Well, thank you. Glad you're here. It's been a long time coming. I think we contacted you 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago.
That's right.
Yeah, we're finally getting you on here. So what's life like in New York City these days? Back to the old hustle and bustle? Are we still halfway there, or what's going on there?
No, it's actually kind of back to the hustle and bustle, and I'm so happy to I feel like we're reborn after hibernating for 2 years.
Yeah.
My kids just went back to school. They're unmasked for the first time, and it was actually, I felt like a momentous day because my son came back and he said, "Oh, this is the first time I saw my classmate's face." And it was so sweet, but it was also kind of sad, but it's also, a victory in some sorts because it was a challenge. We've gotten over it, and hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you know as well as anybody, part of communicating is seeing the other person's face. And if you go to school and you can't see anybody's face, you're missing out on a big part of life, maybe half, maybe more. Who knows, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, same with the teachers. You can't even, if your teacher gives you a mean look, you can't tell.
That's true. Also, but I have to say, it might have come in handy for some of the teachers, I feel, because, when you're frustrated with the child and you don't really want to communicate that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, a kid could use that as an excuse, too. They could be, I don't know, just make something up, destroying the slide outside. The teacher comes out, gives them a mean look, but they can't tell the teacher's mad, so they just keep destroying the slide. Oh, teacher, I didn't know you were upset. I couldn't see your face. It'd be fun if I wouldn't be surprised if some kid somewhere tried that. Would you?
I'm not at all.
No,
I'm
right.
sure it's been tried many times over.
Not your kid and not my kids when they were younger. Hopefully.
It's always someone else's kid, not our kid.
That's right. That's exactly how I see life. Well, it's great to have you with us today. Now, I'm not really familiar with your line of work because, I've worked forever as a musician. My first 2 degrees were in music, so I understand the arts from that standpoint. But I am not an artist, and I really have no clue about this. So you're going to be educating me directly as well as our listeners today. So just tell us what you do. You're the founder of Let's Curate Incorporated. So just tell us all about this.
So to kind of put it briefly, and then I'll kind of expand on that, this platform essentially is a space for independent creators to create the way they want. So I was in the corporate job for the longest time. This platform is just over 2 years old. And I am an avid traveler up until, obviously, the pandemic hit us. Right. But I've always been fascinated by kind of discovering unexpected art and, handicrafts from around the world. And I also come from India, which is incredibly rich in terms of traditional processes and, the kinds of techniques that I used in creating stuff. So essentially over the years, I'm doing my regular day job. I'm traveling quite a bit. And I slowly realized that as I'm traveling, I'm discovering people whom, once I came back to New York, I just realized that there was no way for me to reach them, ask them more about their work or buy more of their stuff because I found them in small towns, running a family business, not in primary cities, not in, those typical tourist shops that you go to. And it kind of gnawed at me over many years. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I tried looking for platforms that kind of supported these kinds of artists, because you have to understand it's a challenge, because they are putting in a lot of time and effort in kind of continuing with these techniques which they've learned from their ancestors many generations away. But considering that they don't have a space or they don't have the spotlight on them, they're doing everything. They're thinking of the concept, they're executing it, they're creating it, then they have to promote themselves, they have to put it out there, people have to find them. And more often than not, I kind of felt them beaten down by this whole process. And, I don't know whether you felt that, but especially during the pandemic, I felt that without the arts, it's not something to be kind of dismissed. We actually on a daily basis consume art to survive. It's to kind of grow, to evolve. You want to relax, you watch a show, you read a book, you sometimes look at art, and it's soothing, it's liberating for the soul. And essentially I started connecting with, as I traveled henceforth, I started connecting with a bunch of artisans, and then by 2019, I kind of made up my mind to do something about it, because I couldn't find anything else that was helping these artists. So in 2019, I had a group of 10 artisans from 10 countries, and I said it was a now or never moment, and I kind of went ahead and launched it. So initially, we launched it as a shop for showcasing these beautiful custom handmade products. And the other special thing about the products that we showcase is that they're small batch. These are products, if you buy a couple of these pieces, they're gone, and then the artist comes up with something completely different. That was another thing that I really love. And as the world gets more and more connected, I feel that people are kind of moving away from buying run-of-the-mill things. They're interested in stories. They're interested in the history behind a product. And over the 2 years, that's only strengthened, because I feel like the pandemic played a big part. So essentially, we started with 10 people. Now my platform has grown to represent 54 artists as of today from 30 countries. So yes, it's been quite a journey. And we started with the shop, and now there's like a whole bunch of avenues that we offer to kind of support these people.
Well, that's amazing. And, you mentioned something earlier, how art can be soothing, and it's a great thing to have. And I worked in schools forever, and anytime there was a money crunch, the first thing they would cut would be the art.
I know.
Cut music and art. And I even had a superintendent once tell me, well, what's the importance of art? They're not going to grow up to be artists. They're not good enough. They're going to do something else. And I fell flat on my back. It's like everything in our world, everything is artistic. That 7-Eleven down the street, somebody had to draw that on paper, create it in a computer. Somebody had to build it to look exactly like the drawing. So everywhere you look, there's art, isn't there?
Absolutely. And somehow people have this thing, and I think it's also the fault of the kind of messaging that's sent out in the world, right? Because when you think of art, and this is what stopped me from kind of also kickstarting the platform, because for a number of years, in my mind, art is something that you only see in an art gallery. And I don't know why I picked up on this messaging, because, it's not like I've not traveled the world and I'm not exposed to things. But it took me a long time to get over that mental block in my mind, to kind of realize that, hey, art in art galleries is great. It serves its purpose. It has a definite purpose. But art essentially should be accessible to everyone. Yeah. And art basically is creating something, exactly like you said, whether it's a store, whether it's a book, whether it's, for some reason, we are conditioned to think of art in very, kind of a very rigid, structured manner, which actually is ironic, because art is, it's free form. You can do anything. So it is a bit sad. And that's one of the things that I want to kind of, through my platform, shatter this myth which makes people excluded from enjoying art, from experiencing it. There's also this other thing where people assume that art is only meant for the very rich or those who have multiple resources. Yes, there are options for them, but that does not mean that, as a middle class family person, there could be no art accessible to you and your family. And I think that's an important messaging I would want to kind of pass on to my kids, for them to know that, if you want to create something, you can. You will find someone, hopefully, who will appreciate that for the way it is. Because there's also this whole other issue of artists having to try to kind of change their technique or to fit the framework. Just as an example, I have an emerging artist who I had multiple conversations with her, and the bulk of the conversation was about her telling me she didn't feel her art was good enough to be in an art gallery. So it took me a long time for me to kind of just communicate to her that art does not always have to be in a gallery. It could be anywhere. It could be in the school hallway. It could be in someone's living room. It could be in her own, so it's about kind of, and it's so, I just find it very strange. And I've fallen victim to this thing too, where it's very like, art is it's only for the hoity-toity. If you don't have an education in art, who are you to talk about art? But that is actually not, and I feel like if this messaging keeps going on, no wonder there are people who are so talented who have no space to go to. And invariably what happens is they stop creating, because where else will they get their livelihood from? And they end up joining, a job that does not provide them with any satisfaction. It's getting, it's adding an employee to a company where the company will not really benefit in the long run, because you've hired a person who's not meant to do that.
Yeah. Now, even if you don't have an eye for art, or you don't know what's good or bad or average or whatever, you still have access to art. And I know a lot of very successful people, physicians, attorneys, teachers, bankers, business people, who work, seems like 500 hours a week, but they still leave time to paint or to draw or to create something with ceramics, because you used the word soothing earlier. It soothes them, it relaxes them, it gives them a different outlet. And whether they're any good at it or not, that can be left for somebody else to decide. But it's important enough to them to keep the art going in their lives. So that's a big part of it too, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's also, I feel like we're also moving towards, or it's been kind of in the psyche among people, where it's like, your art has to be something that has to be to cater to the mass. For example, if contemporary art is the new thing that people are talking about in fine art galleries, I've noticed artists who have nothing to do with that style trying to kind of change it and follow that pattern. And I completely sympathize with them, because they come back to me and they say, what, if we don't do this, this is trending. If I don't do this, there's no way anyone will let me in their gallery to allow me an opportunity to show them my stuff. So it's a catch-22, because I feel like artists are constantly having to manipulate their own original style, whereas, through Let's Curate, I want to kind of keep it as a collaborative space. I would like you, if you like someone's work, to kind of have an opportunity to speak to them, to say, hey, I really like this, but to just open up a dialogue, because, art is it's a form of storytelling. And there is no story that's good or bad. Every story appeals to someone. Yeah.
Now, I have art all over my house because I'm into the arts. I don't understand art. You might come to my living room and say, well, Paul, what the heck did you put that painting up for? It looks ridiculous. But to me, it looks fine, and it fits with the furniture and so on and so forth. But I also have about another 20, at least, paintings in the garage just up against a wall that I thought would be terrific, and they work in a different house. They don't work in this house, but I'm not getting rid of them. I'm going to hang on to them, and I guess eventually if I don't find a place for them, I will give them away or sell them so they can see the light of day again on somebody's wall. But I hate to give away art. Now, let me ask you this question. I understand both sides of the argument, so whatever you tell me, I will agree with you. So that's an easy question up front. Sometimes I'll go to a restaurant, maybe a decent restaurant, and there are paintings all over the place. They look great. And in the bottom right-hand corner or the top right-hand corner, there's a little tag with the artist's name and maybe a price. And so what they've done, these artists have lent their paintings to the restaurant in hopes that somebody will buy it. You can contact it. And so that's a great way to sell paintings, I'm guessing. But at the same time, I get a little ticked off because the owner of that restaurant gets to decorate his restaurant for free. And I think when it comes to art, you should pay for quality art. So again, I understand both sides of the argument. Just curious as to which side. How do you come down on that?
That is actually a very tricky question, and this is something that I have struggled with in terms of running my business per se. Because to be honest, in a perfect world, I would probably just introduce 2,000 new artists and then just say, look at this. There's 2,000 different kinds of styles that I can showcase now. But then running a business, or everyone is hustling essentially,
right,
to so there might be someone who, for example, an artist, it depends, I feel, on how flexible an artist is. And like you said, there are no right or wrong answers. I know artists who have held on for 15 plus years because they just did not find someone that they clicked with. And they're fine holding on to that. Then I have the other kinds of artists who are like, we want our work to be shown everywhere, at restaurants, in pop-up stores, in someone's living room. We'll do it for free. But you know what? It depends on the personality and how strongly you feel about that. So, for example, we have, when I kickstarted the platform, I had 10 people that I kind of launched. And slowly but surely, we kept getting requests by more and more artists to be part of the network. Now, again, in a perfect world, I would probably have welcomed each and every one of them. Remember, I was also kind of trying to build the network as such. And so there were people who were part of a gallery or people who were part of an organization. And, my framework was very strict in the sense that I wanted to focus on individuals because I felt that individuals had no place to go. Whereas if you're part of an organization or a gallery, there's a whole system in place to kind of help you out. So we had people who came and they said, we have our stuff in a gallery, but so why would you not, kind of include us in your network? And at that point, if you think about it, I'm in a way, I'm excluding them. But then because my framework was so rigid for my objective, I essentially had to say no to a bunch of people.
Right.
Now, did I do the wrong thing? Because someone would argue and say, hey, but your objective is to put the spotlight on every creator. But then I had to kind of, I would say, fence it off at some point because I had to stay true to my philosophy. And my philosophy was very, very, I would say, I'm very specific about the kind of person that I want to showcase because I'm curating this. Me and my team are curating this. So we have a certain style in mind, or we have a certain, I would say, overall objective. And the primary thing was to just present individuals. So when there were people who came and they said, oh, but we are also part of this organization and we are also part of the gallery, I unfortunately had to say no. But then at that point, like you said, someone would probably come and say, but you just excluded that person. He's an artist. He's a creator. He's staying true to his philosophy. But I had to stay true to my philosophy. So in that sense, I would say it depends on each person. And the beauty of this is you try to find your own tribe. So the person who puts up his art in a restaurant, I think success for him would mean finding his own tribe of people who believed in saying, you know what, we want our stuff to be seen everywhere. And the other person also finding his or her tribe where they're like, no, this is the kind of person that, there are certain artists who are so also very particular about the kind of buyer who approaches them. There are many artists I know who will never sell their painting to the highest bidder. They actually sit down, they speak to potential buyers, and for some people that might sound so filled with attitude. But I get it because they've put in their heart and soul in that. So they want their painting. It's like sending your child off to someone else's house, So, so I feel like it's all true, but I feel like it's important to know who you are. And like you said, there are no right or wrong answers. If you want your art to be seen everywhere, do everything that it takes to make that happen. If you're someone who prefers to be very, very selective about the kind of, I would say, network that you want to be part of, you work at that. But so I wanted to kind of, my philosophy was very specific in terms of the kind of people I wanted to showcase, and I'm thankful that I've been able to stay true to that. And I think that's all you can hope for, to kind of not deviate or not dilute from your original thought.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to the financial aspect. Do you need the money? If so, throw them up in every restaurant in town and hope for the best. If you don't need the money today, maybe hang on. And I remember talking to a guy, I think it was Universal Studios in Florida, 150 years ago when my kids were little. We took them there. And they were drawing caricatures of mostly kids. I guess I could have had mine done too, but had all three of my kids get up there. They just lined up side by side, and he drew a picture. And in about 20 minutes, he was totally done. And one of the most magnificent creations I've ever seen. Like, how did this guy do that in 20 minutes? He captured their personalities. He captured facial aspects. And I still have that and bought several. Asked him, if I could make prints. He said yes. So had one in my office for years, one in my home for years, and passed them out to friends and family. And I talked to him about that, and I said, well, tell me how you got involved with this, working at Universal Studios. And he said, well, I got my bachelor's in art, got my master's in art. I'm working on my PhD, and I have paintings in galleries all around the world. He said, but I do have to put food on the table. So from 9 to 5 every day or whatever his hours were, he goes, I'm at Universal Studios drawing people's faces. They think it's great art. And he said, I'm telling you, this is not great art. He said, I could do this with my eyes closed, but most people can't. Therefore, I can make money doing it. So the financial aspect is a part of it too, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And, there's also this whole, the starving artist kind of the stereotype.
Sure.
And it's, people, it's glamorized, and it's actually very unfortunate. There's nothing glamorous about being a starving artist. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like the person that you were talking about, he just said, this is not great art. Like, he knows art. He studied art. And he's like, but that's what I'm saying. I feel like everyone chooses their own path. But I think you have to go, when you start walking on that path with 100% conviction, all you have to do is to have the strength to stick to it, I feel.
Yeah.
And, you can always, because life is, again, not a straight line, right? Things keep coming and going. Like, I have, there was an artist she's an artist, she works for us, she's from India. And her in-laws are national award-winning painters of a very specific kind of tribal art, and she learned that from them. And, she was talking to me. I found her out at the airport. I contacted her. I kind of basically hunted her down, and I said, you know what, why are you not, like, you should be doing more of this. And now she's part of the network. But she, up until today, is working in a corporate job. Because she said that, you know what, I have 2 kids, I have a husband, I have a mortgage, and not everyone is lining up outside my door, giving me commissions for this very specific kind of tribal art.
Yeah.
So she was like, this is my, you can call it compromise, you can call it doing my duty towards my family, you can call it anything. So I feel like there's no way anyone can pass judgment on any creator for that matter, or anyone, because everyone has made choices based on their circumstances. So the painters who decided to lend their paintings for free in restaurants, we don't know the circumstances. Maybe, they needed the money, like you said. Maybe their focus is just to kind of have someone look at their paintings.
Sure.
Just for them to feel that satisfaction that, like 200 people walked in through that door and maybe they looked at my stuff. So I feel like everyone needs to have the freedom to do it the way they want. And I feel like it's hard to find platforms like that. And I'm constantly trying to fine tune my, the branding of my business to kind of keep it as, I would say, dynamic and as kind of free-flowing as possible, so that this is the one place where I want creators to come and feel like, oh, there are no rules. If I want to do a ceramic painting, if I want to do a ceramic sculpture today, she will help me out.
Right.
And tomorrow, if I want to switch from that to being a jewelry designer, that would be acceptable too. And that's exactly the way I want it to be. I want it to flow. I want people to have kind of the freedom to create, because I feel like there are very few avenues right now to help them that way.
Yeah, very much so. I had the same experience in music, and I played with symphony orchestras, but I also played pop and rock and roll. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember I came down to a decision one day. The symphony orchestra offered me $50 to come in and play a concert, Beethoven, Mozart, the classics. And I thought, wow, this is great. And then 2 minutes later, this guy called and said, hey, can you play with my band this Friday? And I knew what they did. They did Proud Mary, Johnny B. Good, Celebration, kind of like that character or a caricature guy. I could do those tunes in my sleep. And I said, okay, where is it and whatever. He goes, well, it's this place and it pays $300. And I said, wait, $300 for a bunch of junk? Or I can play the classics for $50.
Yeah.
And part of me, because I was studying with the Detroit Symphony, I thought, I'd better do the symphony gig and worry about the money later. But then my pocketbook said, Paul, don't be an idiot. It's $300 for playing junk. Go do it. And so I did it a few times. And, of course, my teachers got upset with me. But it's like, well, you guys aren't sending food to my house either, I noticed. So I kind of have to fend for myself. But it happens in the world of art, and it's a shame that it does. It didn't used to. Hundreds or thousands of years ago, artists were worshipped and thought very highly, and now you kind of have to scrape the bottom of the barrel until you can make some money, right?
Absolutely. And I keep telling my kids this because they we were watching the Winter Olympics, or my son learns the piano, so he has a wonderful teacher, and I was talking to the teacher also about this, and the teacher gave such a wonderful perspective because my niece, she's 18 years old now, and she is fantastic at the piano, but she's done a very formal kind of education. So she's given a bunch of exams. So she's kind of gone from level to level. So I was talking to my son's teacher about this, and he said, no, I approach this completely differently. I'm teaching him techniques which he can enjoy for the rest of his life, which makes him better every month he gets better and better. And someday, so he had a different perspective in the sense that he said music can be learned in different ways. It's not always in a very structured manner. So, you could be part, like you said, you could be part of a show, or you could be doing the classicals. You could be, I feel like artists need to understand, and for them to understand, we have to give them a space where everything, whatever they want to do, it should be available. And like you said, it was so right, because in the olden days, people would fight over artists. And they would commission them, and they would kind of be in-house for so many big, even in India, for like many of the royal palaces, there would be an in-house painter, an in-house sculptor, and that person was almost like God, and people would fight over, and wars were fought over these people.
That's right.
And but it is such a dilemma, isn't it? When exactly the example that you just mentioned, because do you want the $300, which is a huge amount, or you want $50 for actually playing it the way it's meant to be played in an ideal world? You're supposed to kind of, especially because you're educated in music, you're not a novice. But again, I feel like these are, you can call it a compromise, you can call it doing what you need to do. And some people choose to, some people don't choose to. I mean, in the end, I feel like if you feel fulfilled on this long journey, I think your life is a success.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I don't mean feeling fulfilled every moment of every day, because no one feels like that. And I feel you also need to go through a lot of angst. You need to go through pain. You need to kind of go through envy, all of those bad emotions to create, But I think the easiest thing is for anyone creative to think of a space or, a person or a space where they, close their eyes, think about that platform or a space and think, oh, if tomorrow I wanted to change my style, if tomorrow I wanted to be, instead of being an apparel designer, something to do with handicrafts or something to do with furniture, this is the place I can go to. And that's what I want my platform to be. I want my platform to be that very inclusive space for individuals to kind of help them go any direction they want. And like I said, I'm not an artist. I'm I'm just curating unexpected, I feel like understated, and people who are not kind of getting the attention that they need to flourish.
Yep, no, very well said. It's been great to talk to you today. We've been talking to MEGHANA GIRIDHAR today from New York City, the founder of Let's Curate. And I visited your website a few times to check things out in preparation for this interview. And I want you to give that in just a moment, but we do encourage our listeners to check it out. There's everything in here in the world of art. Gifts from the globe, home decor, home essentials, fashion accessories, kids stuff, style up your office, global art, and art from various countries as well. And if you're looking for any kind of art, this is the place to go. And why don't you give that website out and tell people how they can get a hold of you today?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Paul. This has been fantastic to chat with you. Let's Curate, www.letscurate.com, LETSCURATE.
Right, no punctuation, letscurate.com. We want our listeners to get there right away. You will be amazed at what you find, the high quality from around the world. And so whatever you're doing in New York City, Meghna, you're doing it well, and you're to be congratulated for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, you bet. Let's do this again down the road and maybe get an update from you as to how things are progressing, if you've added more to your stable of art and artists, and just keep doing the great work. The world of art, the artists themselves need more people like you to get out there and show their work off and get it sold, right?
Thank you. Yes, I hope so. And I hope to, have this conversation once again, and who knows what direction we would have gone in a few years, but that's the exciting part.
Yeah, very much so. Well, great to talk to you today, and I learned quite a bit about art and how to discover it and how to find it and all that good stuff, and we appreciate that. Talking to Meghana Giridhar this morning from New York City. And Meghna, go out there and have a great day. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, Paul. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You too.